Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Lauren.
I am Ken.
And this is Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Paradise After Dark is a bi-weekly podcast covering true crime,
Unsolved mysteries,
missing people,
urban legends, and the dark side of the Sunshine State. But first, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to us at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast.
On Patreon, you'll have access to weekly bonus episodes, our monthly spin-off show, Vacation Edition, early release and ad-free episodes, discounts on our merchandise, and more.
Yeah, and if you don't believe us, you can ask our newest patron, who we'd like to thank right now.
Christopher,
thank you very much.
Coming in at the Unsolved Mystery level.
Woo, woo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for helping us out. We appreciate it and hope you enjoy all the good stuff we have on our Patreon. Also, you can check out our website, paradiseafterdark.com, for our latest episodes, links to our social media, our Etsy store, and the special little donate button if you just want to help us out one time.
If you have a question, a case suggestion, or you'd just like to chat, please email us at paradiseafterdarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, so...
But first, actually, we have an announcement to make.
Oh, yes, we do, don't we?
Yes. Ken and I will be representing Paradise After Dark this year at CrimeCon on Podcast Row, CrimeCon Orlando. It's May 1st through the 3rd at the Orlando World Center Marriott. And we don't have a promo code yet, but we will. As soon by our next episode, we'll have a promo code. So anybody wanting any of our, it's in Orlando. So I feel like this is a great opportunity for Florida, for Florida people to actually go, check out CrimeCon, see what it's about. It's not just for podcasts or
it's anything pertaining to Oxygen, Dateline. I mean, it's so much.
Is a fan of true crime, and it is a fun time. It's so much fun. It's amazing.
There's something to do. So when they open the doors in the morning, there's stuff to do all day long. So, and so it gets to the point where you almost have to map out your day.
Yes.
So you've got to, I want to see this one, and this one. But then, so between these two episodes, you want to hit Podcast Row and this stuff. So, but if we are going to get a promo code, so if you would like to come and see us there, we would love to meet you there, see you there.
Yeah, stay tuned to our social media. As soon as I get that promo code, I'm going to start pumping it out everywhere.
Yeah, if you are interested, send Lauren a message, DM, or whatever they call those things nowadays on social medias, and she will definitely get back with you as soon as we have the information. So the promo code will save you a few bucks and make the day a little more fun. You can get a day pass. You don't have to do the whole weekend.
Yeah, you don't have to do the whole weekend. You can buy just a one-day pass.
Yeah, and like I said, just wait for our promo code. We should have it. So this is part 2.
Part 2 of our 3-part series on the unsolved murder of Taylor McAllister. I'm going to do a quick recap here.
Yeah, and first, if you are listening to this for the first time, go back and listen to part 1. It's very important in this case because there's a lot of details and a lot of stuff to follow along.
So 22-year-old Taylor McAllister's body was found in a dirt alley in St. Petersburg, Florida on December 22nd, 2016. She'd been living with an older man, Robert Butler, whom she met while working as an escort on Backpage.com. They were said to have a, quote, sugar daddy, sugar baby type relationship. Now, Taylor told friends and others that she became afraid of Butler after some time. Her father, Taylor's father, claims that Butler was obsessed with her. Her friends told police that he controlled everything she did and never let her out of his sight. On the evening of December 21st, 2016, Butler called Deontay Baker and Coron Archer to his home.
Now, Baker is Butler's dealer.
Deontay Baker is Robert Butler's live-in drug dealer, and Coron Archer is Deontay Baker's driver. Okay, so Taylor, when they get to the house, Taylor, who was obviously suffering from some kind of grave injury or illness, was there in Butler's bed. Butler would not allow anyone to call 911 as he did not want the police in his home.
For obvious reasons.
So Baker and or Archer took Taylor away in Butler's truck, meaning to take her to the hospital, but at some point along the journey, Taylor died. Archer and Baker called Butler to tell him about Taylor's death and that they were bringing her back to the house. But Butler told them no, they could not bring her back under any circumstances, and they needed to, quote, take care of it.
So they've left And now she obviously died once they left the house, correct?
Correct.
And so they're trying to get a hold of him saying, hey, we got to come back to the house, and he'll have none of it.
Yes.
That's what we know up to this point.
Yes.
Okay.
So Archer suggested they bury her somewhere, but Baker insisted they put her in the alley where she would be found quickly. So that is the quick recap of what we went over in part 1. So what we're getting at here is, will there ever be justice for Taylor and her family? And that's one of the reasons we chose to cover this story. And you'll notice that in all 3 parts of this series, we're using Taylor's voice in lieu of our regular intro and outro music, because we're fortunate enough to have that audio. She was an amazing singer, a beautiful singer. And, yeah, we're really lucky to have that, and we want to put that out there for the world to hear her, because she was a beautiful singer. She was a beautiful person who I think made some mistakes, went down the wrong road, and unfortunately got with the wrong group of people and paid for it with her life, I guess you could say.
Yeah, sometimes people, the music and everything, it shows that she is a person, that she is, like you said, she's a beautiful soul. She's everything that's good in the world, so to speak, but just turned the wrong direction. And, whether she was going to bounce back or not, we obviously will never know. But, yeah, definitely great music. Okay, so let's take a second and talk about the cell phone info. Now, March 28th of 2017, analyst Salona provided mapping information for the cell phones belonging to Butler, Baker, and Archer. Now pay attention, because this can get a little confusing, so I'll try to go slow. Now the maps showed that Butler's phone did not leave his residence during the incident, but Baker's and Archer's phones were traveling together almost all day on December 21st of 2016. At approximately 7:25 p.m. on December 21st, both phones leave Butler's residence and travel all the way to St. Petersburg. Now from approximately 8:40 p.m. until approximately 8:51, both phones are in the area where Taylor was located. Now, they both returned directly to Butler's residence and arrived shortly after 9:20 p.m. Now, Baker's phone leaves Butler's residence at approximately 11:18 p.m. and heads back to St. Petersburg. Archer's last ping at Butler's residence occurs at approximately 10:37 p.m., and it pinged in North St. Petersburg at approximately 11:44 p.m. It further showed Baker's phone in the area where Taylor was located at 12:04 a.m., and this was on December 22nd. Now, Archer's phone continued to head in a southbound direction, but he did not receive any calls or texts after 12:06 on December 22nd. I'm sorry, 12:06 a.m. on December 22nd. It gets confusing, like I said. Now, at that time, Archer was in the area of 15th Avenue South and Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard South. Now, Baker's phone last pings in the area at approximately 12:06 a.m. By 12:33 a.m., both phones appear to be together again in North St. Petersburg. So, as you can see, it appears that obviously Butler's phone stays stationary, but Archer and Baker's phone kind of move together, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So eventually it would come to light that when Taylor died in the backseat of Butler's truck, Archer called Baker and they met up. Archer did not panic and take off with the body, despite what he told police earlier and what we talked about in part 1. The 2 men discussed what should be done. Archer suggested that they find a secluded spot to bury her where she would never be found. Baker disagreed because he knew and liked Taylor. He wanted her body to be found quickly. He said in a statement she deserved better. So they both decided to leave her in the alley where she would eventually be found. So after dumping Taylor's body in the alleyway, Baker and Archer returned to Butler's home, at which time they collectively undertook a series of steps to conceal their involvement in her death. Butler instructed Archer to purchase some lighter fluid, and upon doing so, all 3 of them burned the clothes they were wearing in Butler's fireplace. They also burned in the fireplace certain items that they had removed from Butler's truck, as well as items belonging to Taylor that she kept at Butler's home. The box that captures and stores the video footage on the security cameras installed at Butler's home was physically removed and presumably destroyed.
How convenient.
Now, Butler's truck was also taken to a detail shop the following day and was fully washed and cleaned inside and out.
Now, we see this a lot of times in true crime when things like that happen. That almost is like, it's very suspicious. It's almost like finding something in the vehicle. It's almost like finding something on the recording. Obviously, there's really no proof, but it's almost like it's suspicious activity, if you will.
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying? So it's like almost like you found something because they actually deleted the video footage or something. It seems like there's, you know what I'm saying? I guess I'm not saying it correctly.
Circumstantial.
Exactly. So it's like they're trying to hide the evidence. Even though they succeeded, it definitely points the finger a little bit. So
let's take a look at how Taylor died. According to the autopsy report, and in here, the autopsy report is pretty long, so I'm only going to name the findings in the report that are related to this case. Everything else is irrelevant. So what they found were petechiae of the eyelids and periorbital skin, petechiae and hemorrhage of the bulbar and pulboral conjunctivae of the eyes, petechiae of the labia mucosa of the mouth, abrasions of the mouth, area of submucosal hemorrhage of the mouth, congestion of the skin on the upper head and upper chest, abrasion on the head, areas of dried gray white material on the forearms and the upper portion of the left cheek, abrasions of the anterior right aspect of the neck, areas of muscular hemorrhage in the neck, areas of muscular hemorrhage of the torso. The anterior aspect of the right side of the neck had 3 abrasions which range in dimension from 0.2 centimeters to 1 centimeter. The skin of the anterior aspect of the upper portion of the chest is congested. The central portion of the chest has numerous small abrasions over 10 centimeters, the 7th largest of which being 0.4 centimeters. The right breast has a 2 centimeter linear to irregular abrasion and a 0.4 centimeter abrasion. The left side of the chest has multiple petechiae. The lateral aspect of the lower portion of the left side of the chest has a 2 centimeter faint purple ecchymosis or bruising. The posterior aspect of the right axillary region has numerous petechiae over approximately 7 centimeters. So the cause of death, according to the autopsy report, was asphyxia. The contributory conditions were acute and chronic drug use, but the manner of death was a homicide.
So they're saying that the drugs contributed to the conditions.
The drugs contributed to her death, but the actual cause of death was asphyxia, and the manner of death was homicide.
Okay, that's very important because that's on the ME's report. That's on the autopsy report that it is homicide.
Yes.
And that dictates how the investigation goes, obviously.
Correct. So it is worth noting in Taylor's autopsy report, in her toxicology report, there were no drugs found. The only thing found were cocaine metabolites, which...
Cocaine metabolites can stay in your system for up to 3 weeks, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they were
she had, recently used cocaine.
Exactly.
But it says here, I'm looking at the autopsy report, it says the cocaine metabolite, caffeine, nicotine, and that's it. That's the only thing that they found in her toxicology report. So she was not overdosing.
Yeah.
So that's completely out of the question. It was not an overdose. So during the autopsy, they found male DNA on Taylor's body. DNA from Taylor's neck and underneath her fingernails matched that of Robert Butler. A warrant was finally obtained for Butler's DNA, and he provided a buccal swab. But that was explained away by the fact that she lived with Butler. Even though the autopsy said Taylor McAllister was murdered, investigators still didn't know where or when she died, who was responsible, and if there was even intent to kill. Earlier, when we talked about the body being found, we mentioned a white substance on Taylor's arms. According to the FBI lab, that substance was consistent with an adhesive material. Duct tape, maybe?
Could be. So they're saying that the material was almost like her hands were like taped together, or she was like tied down or something.
Yeah, well, it was found on her cheek and her forearms.
Which would lead you to believe that her hands were tied and her mouth was taped.
That is possible.
Presumably. I mean, that's presumably what we're thinking. It's obviously speculation. That's not proven, but that's something
but according
we can
to the FBI
possible.
lab, the substance was consisted with an adhesive material such as like duct tape.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's possible then.
So detectives initially didn't have enough evidence to get a search warrant of Butler's house. Hoping to find physical evidence from Butler's house, detectives surveilled the people cleaning it. They spoke to Baker's several girlfriends, retracing their movements by triangulation and the location of their cell phones.
So finally, on December 13th of 2017, now this is nearly a year after Taylor's death, the St. Petersburg Police Department served Robert Butler with a search warrant for his home. Now, in looking at the police report, it doesn't look like much of value was found in Butler's home.
Well, that's because it was like a year later that it took them a year to get a search warrant.
And of course, he knew that they were getting a search warrant, so of course that gives you ample time.
Yeah, what did they think that they were going to find?
Yeah.
A year later.
If he's cleaning his house and washing his car the next day.
Yeah.
You give him a year, then he gets time. But
exactly.
Now, obviously, this is all speculation.
Right.
All speculation, but it just seems a little suspicious. And exactly like you say, what are you going to find a year later? Now, but this led them to charging him with a failure to report a death, felony possession of marijuana, and a felony possession of ammunition. Now, Deontay Baker and Kieran Archer were both charged with failure to report a death as well, but no murder charges were filed.
Now, something we need to address, because it's going to come up from time to time from here on out, there was another man involved during all of this, and we are not going to name him because he's not been charged with anything, and his name does not even come up in the police reports. We can just refer to him as D.
D? Okay.
D. This name only came up about a year after Taylor was murdered, when authorities were told that D was with Archer and Baker and threatened to, quote, put a bullet in their head if they ever told the truth about what happened that night. So apparently Butler, Baker, and Archer are all terrified of this guy. This is why it wasn't until a year later, when D was picked up on other drug-related charges, that Baker, Archer, and Butler finally came clean about some of the events of December 22nd, 2016.
Yeah, and if the bad people here are scared of this bad person,
then we're definitely not going to name him.
So are we.
So, and one more thing that we need to address is the federal trial that was happening almost simultaneously with the investigation of Taylor's murder. Now, this
federal trial stems from this case.
No, the federal trial stems from what we talked about in part 1, where Butler and Baker were both charged in federal court on the money laundering scheme. So Butler paid Baker hundreds of thousands of dollars for cocaine and marijuana over the course of several years. He usually bought his drugs with checks. The records show writing out some of the checks to Baker's girlfriends, an assistant prosecutor said was meant to conceal and disguise the nature of the transactions. He bought drugs from Baker from March 2013 to April 2016, according to a plea agreement, and he spent $194,150 in that period.
Wow.
In June 2016, a plea agreement says that Butler began writing checks to his girlfriends, eventually totaling $140,490. But during this federal trial, they were asked about Taylor. Taylor's case did come, like it was happening simultaneously. So it is a completely separate trial, but during that trial, the defendants were asked about Taylor and what happened that night. And
okay,
I'm not even 100% sure on the details of that. And I know that in part 3, when we have Taylor's parents, Bill and Leslie, they get into that a little bit more. They know more about this case than the police do.
Yeah, I think they know pretty much more than the people that did it do.
But I just wanted to put that out there because it is going to come up, and I wanted to make sure our listeners knew what we were talking about.
And before we go any further, let's take a quick listen to our sponsors. Okay, now going back to the search warrant that was issued, there was, like I said, the report for failure. There was the arrest for the failure to report a death, the felony in possession of marijuana, and the felony in possession of ammunition. And now, once these men were jailed, Leslie McAllister, Taylor's mother, made a request to see Deontay Baker in jail, and we have the audio clip of the jailhouse visit.
So, real quick though, this clip has been edited due to time, and some unnecessary and unrelated conversations been cut out. You'll hear a little scratch to indicate where we skipped over certain portions of the clips, and we're actually going to pop back in and discuss the clip as we listen. So let's play that now.
Hey, Dee.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for taking the visit.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what happened. And I was hoping that you could help me figure out what happened. I know you're stuck in there. And I know that you knew Taylor. And I don't think you hurt her. I don't think you did. And I don't think Archer hurt her. And you're sitting behind bars. And
Yeah.
Butler's living life the same. And I just wanted you to tell you that he's turned against you. And I don't know if you know that he made a deal with the feds. And he's going to throw you and Archer under the bus. I got to know what happened to Taylor. And I know you reached out right after she passed away. And my husband and I appreciate that very much. And I've got 12 different stories from the cops, from the medical examiner. Can you just tell me? I know that when the cops picked you up last year on the arrests, and I think they had you call Bert and ask, what did you do? And he told you to come up to the house and I'll tell you. And I don't know if you ever did or if he ever told you anything. Can you tell me anything about how she died? Please, Dee.
Yeah, to be honest, to be, quite frankly honest with you, when the whole situation happened and the detectives first picked me up, I told them, at first, I didn't want to have nothing to do with it, being that, I had already been in prison, and you know what I mean. She happened to be not African American, and I was afraid. You know what I mean. But Bert should have called 911 like we told him to do. You know what I mean.
Right.
I didn't pick her up. I didn't put her in the truck. When I got to the house, she was already in the bed, and I just can't. You know what I mean. I didn't know whether the detectives wanted me to lie. Only thing I knew what to do was tell the truth. You know what I mean. And she was alive. I mean, I would love to, turn on Bert. I know he turned on me, but he got to live with that, because at the end of the day, he know that, I told him, the best thing to do as a friend. He had a son that's 30 years old. He could have had his son. He could have called his son to, come do that. You know what I'm saying? And I told him, you know what I mean? He called me and got my best judgment. And I told him, hey, if I have to pick her up, she had urinated in his bed. I told him, hey, if I have to pick her up, you know what I mean, put her in your truck, she would have still been in his bed. I told him what to do, and he failed to do something. Archer, he felt like, you know what I mean, he could help her he help her in the truck, and they felt like they could get her to the hospital. Archer, you're not from down here. You don't know where to go at. I mean, hospital 10 minutes away. You know what I mean? You don't know where to go. And you know what I mean? He took it upon himself, you know what I mean, and passed Meese Memorial Hospital and drove way to the south side. And I did go to the scene once he called me back and told me, you know what I mean, that she had passed.
So this is where Baker is saying that Archer took off in the truck, in Butler's truck, with Taylor. Okay. So Baker and Archer arrived at Butler's house together. They got Taylor into Butler's truck, and Archer took off with Taylor alone, meaning to take her to the hospital, but apparently he passed the hospital because he didn't know the area, and then she passed away in the vehicle. He calls Baker. Baker meets up with him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, nobody wanted to have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? You know, she's having to be a white female, man, and I knew, and it still to this day caused me to bite me on my behind, because it got me away from my kids, and you know, I'm looking at some time, which is cool, because I feel like, you know, God got me, and I just got to live with it. You know what I mean? I already know He has money, so at the end of the day, you know, He's white, He got money. You know, millions of dollars in trust funds. They you know what I mean? They're gonna fry me. I'm an African American, and I figured that. That's why I really didn't have nothing to do with it, and that's the only reason I reached out, because you know, I have daughters, and I felt like I just wanted to do the right thing and let you know as a parent. You know what I mean? I know she's looking down. You know what I mean? Knowing that, you know what I mean, I'm innocent. She know I wouldn't hurt her fly. I wouldn't. You know what I mean? I would never do that, and I could just imagine the pain that you're going through. I wasn't looking for no break or nothing to try to, you know, get you on my side, or none of that. I you know what I mean? That's not me. I gave them, you know, I told them they could have the semen from the DNA, from the hairs. I told them, I said, you know, take anything you need from me. I'm going to tell you the truth. Archer lied to them. You know, Bert lied, told him he hadn't seen her for, you know, 4 or 5 days in the beginning. I thought I was going to do the right thing and say, hey, you know what? You know, this female, she belongs to someone. I'm going to lay it all out on the table. And, you know what I mean? That's exactly, you know, what I did. You know what I mean? And as well as I know, I asked him 20 times at least. And that's on my God. If I'm lying, God can give me 100 years in prison. I asked him over 20 times to get that girl some help. He waited till the night that she was sick. You know what I mean? That she couldn't fend for herself to call me up there. If he would have told me what I was coming up there for, I would never have went. That would have been his nightmare. Just like I told him, you know, when I got there. No, I'm not touching her. I told you 20. Don't wait until she's in the bed and she can't fend for herself and she's moaning and groaning to call me. Don't do me like that, Bert. Don't do me like that. And I told him. And if Archer would have followed my lead, like I told him to do, you know what I mean, she would have stayed in his bed. But Bert Pussy went and got her to the hospital, and when Archer got in the truck with her, Bert stayed in the house and act like it was our problem. Even when you know what I'm saying, I went and told when I got the call, when Archer called me and say, hey, you know what I mean, she has died, D. I shot to the scene to make sure myself. I called him again. She had to come back. We have to do what's right. She has to come back. No, she can't come back here. That's what he told me. She can't come back here. You know what I mean? So Archer said, okay, we have to bury a hole, you know what I mean? Or Late McGore is here. We have to, no, y'all can't do this. Just leave her. Just fucking leave her. And that's what I told him to do. Just leave her.
Okay, so here we are with Archer, Baker, and D. And Archer and Dee want to bury Taylor somewhere where she'll never be found. But Baker is telling them no. Like, no, leave her in the alley.
Because like we said before, he knew her.
He knew her.
Yeah, so he was a little bit more compassionate.
Right. Okay.
If you can utilize that terminology, but...
All right, let's keep going.
You know what I mean? And we did get out of there, you know what I mean, kind of fast. You know what I mean? So, you know, her leg was pinched, and I felt bad about that. That crushed me just to know that. But the things that they were thinking about doing, I couldn't allow that. And I did what was best, you know what I mean, at the time. You know what I mean? If I was by myself, you know what I mean, I had the heart. I wish I had that heart, but I knew that I had been in prison before. I knew a white girl with no clothes on that was naked in somebody else's bed. I felt like they would have framed me and hung me under jail, and they still doing it. They still did it. So, you know, I'm still, you know what I mean, I should have, you know what I mean, you know, had been brave enough to went on and just took her to the hospital. But at the same time, I was with a couple of friends, and we're all African Americans, and I knew that she was once alive a few minutes ago. You know, she was moaning. She wasn't in the best shape, but here it is. She was moaning and groaning. If he could have just ran up the street to Meeks Memorial, like I thought, you know, when I came outside and seen that truck was fucking gone, I panicked. I didn't believe it. And the next call, she went from, moaning and groaning to gone, that killed me. What happened beforehand, I never got a chance to, if they would have did it right, St. Pete Police Department, I could have went up there and got to the bottom of it. But they're too busy, trying to frame me. You know what I mean? That it puts me away from them. You know what I mean? So they did the whole thing totally wrong.
So in this part, what he's talking about is that he offered St. Pete Police to actually go up to Butler's house wearing a wire to try and get information from Butler. And they said no. They wouldn't allow him to do that.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow him to basically go like sort of undercover as an informant kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what he's talking about here, how he wanted to help the police and he wanted to get information from Butler, but they were more concerned about the drug charges or other charges, more concerned about that than they were about finding out exactly what happened to Taylor.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because he got hustle money. He got shut up money. I don't have the money Bert got. You know what I mean? But he took care of me for years. I did make that call, and I told them detectives, what do y'all need me to do? They didn't care. Only thing they cared about was making it my nightmare. And I told them the truth. I said, man, I don't care if you get a lot of detective tests. You guys would not have, you would have been clueless. You wouldn't have had nothing. You would have had no leads, no nothing. You know what I mean? Archer lied. They had already let him go. You know what I mean? They were getting ready to let me go. And it broke my heart because she was, you know what I mean? She wasn't the enemy of mine. And you know what I mean? She wasn't a friend because I never know. Only thing I knew, she played the guitar and she was Bert's company. You know what I mean? But what happened? That to the point that she got there, I hadn't been there for 2 days. So when he called me up there, I went there and she was already like in distress. She was already, as soon as Archer touched her arm, she was, she was moaning and groaning. And I just looked at him like, hey, you know what I mean? Call 911, man. They're gonna pat you on the back. It is, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna pat you on the back and remove her. Say, hey, I met this young lady off the,
Did she look like she was dying? I mean, what was wrong? She's bruised from head to toe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See, I didn't see I did see her picking at her skin, but far as punches and I'm telling you, when I got there, she was laying in the bed in urination. You know what I mean? The mattress that she had, he ended up when me and Diva was staying at her hair salon in the back on top of the mattress. Detectives got the mattress. I know they could tell the mattress was urinated. When we got to that house, me and them guys, when we got to the house, she had urination. You know what I mean? She had laid in urination and she was laying there. She wasn't. When you raise her arm, she was just like if she was sick. I don't know what happened when they never gave it. No, she didn't say anything. But when Archer was raising her arms, he was saying, "Baby, are you all right?" He was looking. he freaked out. He did freak out. You know what I mean? He was, Archer, he used to work in like some little pharmacy or something like that. But I told him, I said, Bert said, no, I don't want the police around here. I don't want the ambulance around here. Let's just, if y'all get her in the truck, I'm going to take her to Meats and I'll walk her in there. I say, man, I'm not doing none of that. I'm not putting one finger or one piece of energy into that. You know what I mean? Archer said, okay, well, damn, I do it. He wanted to be Macho Man, and he wanted to do it. And the only thing he had to do, if he was going to do it, was just sit her in the truck and let Bert. It was on him. He didn't have no bid. That's how me and him fell out. That's why him and fell out, because he had nobody gave him the authorization to put that car and drive and go nowhere. You do not know where anything is around here. Only thing you know is how to get up to Bert's house. You don't know what an ambulance. You don't know where the hospitals that are around here. No, we pass it every day, but you're not paying attention. You don't know it's 5 minutes away. The only thing I wish I would have did, was picked up my cell phone and just dialed 911 for him. But I told him already, 20 times, this is your company, you do it. Take the initiative, Bert, just do it. They'll pat you on your back. I wish I would have had the heart, but I know how these police are. I know I see them do this every day, to African Americans. I see the stuff that they do. I hate that it's this way. I hate the way the world is, but I just seen on too many different occasions, that, they fry us. Like Bert's gonna do a year, You know what I mean? I'm looking at 5. I might be 5 to 20 years. It's no telling. You know what I mean? And it just how the world works. You know what I mean? So
Now there you hear him talk about, they would have patted you on the back. Now, obviously, Bert, referring to Butler, it would seem to me that he would have called the police if it was a drug-related problem, because obviously he's got drugs in the house, but, with his stature and his ability, you'd be better off fighting that charge than you would someone dying. But It seems to me that there's more beyond, obviously, that there was something else that was done to her that would lead him not to call police or 911 for fear of that. Like he said, you're a white guy, you would have been fine. You call the police, they'd have pat you on the back.
Well, my question is it's not really a rhetorical question. I think it's a conversation. Baker mentioned several times that these are 2 black guys with a white girl in the back, unclothed. Like, do you think that would have made a difference if they had taken her to the hospital? Or
I absolutely think it would have.
I hate to admit that, but
yeah.
I mean, the way the world is, if you want to be completely realistic, I do believe that
but
that would play in.
But when you
which
go to,
is so fucked up, but
it's true. But if you go to a hospital in any situation, if you ever find yourself in this situation, no matter who you are, go to the hospital, get somebody to come out, get them into the hospital, get in your car, you leave.
Yeah.
If they find you later, then you explain the issue. But by then you've had a chance to do whatever you have to do and you could think about it. But at least if someone needs help, get them there to get help, which leads me to believe more along the lines like I was stating earlier about Butler. Something was obviously wrong other than the drug-related problem.
Well, we know it wasn't a drug-related problem because she didn't have drugs in her system.
Exactly. And, of course, Baker is describing that about Butler. He said, you should have called the police. They'd have patted you on the back, call 911. But obviously that's what I'm saying is it seems to me, it appears that there's much more involved. That's why he didn't call the police. Instead, he called Archer and Baker to come.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That basically my suspicion pushes more towards Butler doing something that is to harm Taylor that's not drug related.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
I laid it all out on the table for these detectives. I didn't lie to them. I told them everything they needed to know. You know what I mean? I could have told the same thing like, hey, I don't have nothing to do with that. I don't know. You know what I mean? I told the detectives everything I told you and reached out and told you. I told it to the detectives with no lie. I gave them as much DNA off me as they needed. You know what I mean? And told them, hey, trust me, it wasn't the best spot at the time where she was left at, but I guarantee you 100%. You know what I mean? The way them guys panicked, the things that they wanted to do, I couldn't allow them to do that. And I still, at the end of the day, did what was right. I did what was right. You know what I mean? I could lay down every night on this bunk and eat bologna sandwiches knowing that I did the right thing. I might, I know I'm going to prison, but it's fine. I still know that I did the right thing.
But it's not right, D. It's not right.
I know that was your heart. I know, she left 2 beautiful kids behind. That crushed me the same way. I lay on my bunk and think about that. You know what I mean? Just, if 911 would have just been called, she still would be here today. Bert didn't have the heart to do it.
Bert has fucked you and has you sitting there. None of this would have happened. None of this wouldn't happen if Taylor wouldn't have died. And if you'd still be on the street, Khadijah's going to have a baby any day, and you're not going to be there.
I agree. I agree.
You missed your daughter's graduation.
Yeah, that crushed my heart, but
and you can't get that back. And I swear to God, if you have anything, if he touched her, he had scrapes on his face, and I know you guys were probably high as shit and whatever. But if there's anything you guys remember, man, you gotta say something because you're gonna go away for a long time. You're going to have a baby girl. What if somebody did this to your daughter? What if somebody did this?
I agree.
I thank you for not dumping her where I would never find her.
Right.
I thank you for that. And I thank you for being honest with the cops. But the reason you're sitting in there is Butler. Butler didn't bail you out. He's a piece of shit coward.
Right,
And
you're right.
Taylor was beat to shit. She has DNA under her fingernails from fighting back. She has her whole mouth. Her whole mouth is just, she was biting to breathe. And I don't understand. That's why I'm so confused on what did Bert do to her before you guys picked her up. I don't think any of you guys did anything to her. Right. If you can think or you know of anything, I know he did something to her. As a mom, I can feel it. I can feel Taylor pushing me, saying, "Mom, don't let this go." And I don't think you had anything to do with it. I don't think did. I don't think Archer did. Archer seems like a really good kid. And now you're going to lose your future. You and Archer are going to lose your future. You got to talk to your lawyer. You should have made a deal, man, because Bert just threw you under the bus. He is not a friend. He's a fucking coward. He's a fucking piece of shit coward.
I already know it. I know I'm gonna have to live with it. I told them everything I knew, and you know what I mean. I could have turned. I mean, if they wanted me to lie on them or something like that, the way he's doing me, then you know what I mean. That's the only option I would have had. But I'm stuck. It's nothing. You know what I mean. I told them exactly from the jump everything I knew, and like I said, before I got there, I don't know what happened. You know what I mean, between the two of them. I can't say because, I thought he was a friend to me. Like I said, I never seen him, argue with her. I never seen him hit her. He wouldn't do that in front of me anyway. You know what I mean? I never have seen that. I never seen her with a black eye, her eyes shut. I never seen none of that. But that night when we got there, you know what I mean? You could talk to Archer when he comes in. He's gonna tell you the exact same story, nothing less. You know what I mean? When we got there, she was laying in the bed and she was just moaning. Her eyes were shut, and every time you would lift her arms up, it was just It was just moans. It was moans. It wasn't. She was there, and her eyes was open, and she was just, you know what I'm saying, just out of it, and she wasn't saying anything, and she honestly was just moaning loud. She was just in a lot of pain. Y'all keep picking us up. Why didn't y'all pick him up and squeeze his balls? You know what I mean? Y'all talking to people who just arrived there. Why don't y'all squeeze his balls? They didn't do none of that. They didn't do none of that. They squeezing everybody's balls but the right person. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That's crazy. You know what I mean? That's crazy how the law is. It's insane.
Okay, so here he's talking about how the St. Petersburg police kept coming after Archer and Baker, but they weren't doing anything going after Butler at all. For what happened to Taylor. Because
Butler, remember, he's a pretty wealthy guy. I mean, he wasn't a broke guy. So obviously he's got a little stature in the community. People know him. But I think that's why he keeps referring to the race issue with, being a problem.
But it doesn't. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It would make more sense to me. Maybe because I know this case.
Yeah.
But the police should have known this case as well. And it would make much more sense to me to go after Butler than waste my time going after Archer and Baker. Exactly.
I agree with you 100% on that. It's just one of those things where that's where he's saying is, why didn't they squeeze his balls? In other words, why didn't they say something to him? Why aren't they doing anything to him? They're just coming after us.
Yeah.
We're telling you, hey, this is what we found when we got there. This is what we've seen. We're telling you that. But yet you're coming after us, making it like we did something when we were just an afterthought. That's what I'm getting by his conversation.
Exactly.
That's kind of the feel I'm getting. And again, this is his story. This is what he's telling.
Right.
And when you've got three people involved, you've got 9 sides of the story.
The only thing about Baker, and the only reason I actually decided to include this in our episode is because Baker's the only one whose story stayed consistent. And he is the only one that seemed to want to help police figure out what happened to Taylor.
And I think he's the only one that was willing to talk to Leslie, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
And he accepted the visit for Taylor's mother. And I think he's dumb as a rock, obviously, but I think that he wants to do the right thing. I mean, he did a very, very bad thing.
Yeah.
And that nothing will excuse that, but it kind of seems like now he wants to do the right thing.
Exactly, because he's got a little bit of a conscience, and I think maybe he's trying really hard.
How long was she in the truck before she died? Do you know?
I would say he called me. I'll be playing back that memory. I mean, he wasn't gone. He was probably gone 30 to 45 minutes. He probably was gone at least 30 minutes. He was gone at least 30 to 45 minutes because he had made it way across the Bayside Bridge. So I mean, going down that Mullen Booth from Bert's house, it takes it takes, you know what I mean, at least 20 to 30 minutes.
Right.
So if he was flying.
Did he say anything? Did she say anything before, or did she say anything in the truck that?
You see, I wasn't in the truck.
I know you.
Yeah,
and Archer told you. I haven't talked to Archer.
I haven't talked to him and since I'm talking about I haven't talked to Archer because when we went to court, the judge, we all lost contact. Me, Miriam, we all us lost contact. When the whole incident happened, they split all us up. So we couldn't do anything. We couldn't even have any conversations about nothing, or
right.
I don't know if they thought that we were going to coerce our story or something, but I ain't have nothing to hide. I laid it on the line and told them everything that I knew.
But what did Bert do when you guys went back to Bert's house? All of y'all did, and Archer went and bought lighter fluid. Did you guys burn Taylor's clothes? Did you get rid of Taylor's clothes? Do you know if she has anything left? I mean, they did a search warrant on Bert's house, but I don't have any. I know Taylor's stuff was there, and I don't know. Archer went and bought lighter fluid. I don't know. Y'all burned your clothes in the.
See, I didn't burn anything. See, that's what was crazy. You know what I mean? He said that he told the police that Bert told him to buy lighter fluid. I didn't know nothing about that. I still had the same clothes on that I didn't burn. You know what I mean? I didn't burn anything. I didn't. You know what I mean? I didn't see him burn anything. He did have the fireplace already going, so that's why I didn't know exactly what he bought lighter fluid for, because he got a fireplace. He keeps the little lighter fluid things already ready, like the little that you could light the wood with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And are you for sure when you left her in the alley that she was dead? You didn't leave her there alive, right? I mean, she was dead.
I wasn't. I don't know what kind of guy they think I am or something like that, man. I know I made a couple, bad choices in my life or something, but never to the extreme. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? With Boy Scouts honor, but doing something to her, they checked her pulse. Checked her pulse, and he was extremely mad about that situation. He was devastated. I mean, he honestly tried to, break Archer's neck, and I had to honestly pry him from that kid and tell him, say, hey man, he's just a kid. He made a bad choice, and you know what I mean, and he got a record longer than mine and Archer's put together. So he definitely didn't want nothing to do with that situation.
So this is where they're talking about D, the mystery man, the third party involved, and how he fought with Archer. And maybe at this point is when D threatened to blow their head off if they talked. But obviously Archer and Baker are scared of this guy. Exactly.
So I mean,
that's what he's talking about here.
Yeah, when you get into these certain people, that's a fear you have to have. I mean, whether you're in it or you're around it, or if you're not, these are the people that you're supposed to fear in that game.
You know what I mean? But when they was coming up with ideas, you know what I'm saying? After, they found out that she didn't make it when You know what I mean? They were coming up with ideas. I told them, man, no, y'all can't do that, man. Y'all building, you know what I'm saying? It's you know what I mean? We in a bad situation. You know, he's saying that we can't bring her back to the house. You know what I mean? But we don't have to go to that extreme, bro. Just listen to me, just please. We don't have to do that because I almost just told both of them, y'all just go and just leave me with her. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? We all was freaking out, but what they really wanted to do, it wasn't necessary. And I'm glad that they did listen to me, you know what I mean, that much. And you know what I mean? I felt like it was a light alley. I know people was gonna be coming from they have to come through the alley going to work. I know she was gonna be found quick, you know what I mean? And I just felt like, you know what I mean, that was the right thing to do at the time. You wanna know, you know what I mean? I don't know if they wanted me to lie. You know what I mean? I ain't no regular wanted me to lie. You know what I mean? Because you know he honestly like spent a lot of hours trying to get me into a drug deal instead of trying to coerce me to talk to Bert and ask him exactly what happened and get that on and get that on the record. You know, that's what should have been done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. He should have had me, with a recorder to go up there and find out and cooperate with me to try to get some justice done. But instead, he was trying to get me in a $5 on crack deal or $5 cocaine deal.
So you can see his frustration here.
Yeah. Here again, he is confirming that the police were not concerned about what happened to Taylor. They were more concerned about these piddly little drug deals they were trying to get Baker to help them with. And again, Baker offered to wear a wire to go up there and talk to Butler, and the police just blew him off. They refused to do any of that.
Exactly. And that, like I said, you can actually, as much as I hate to say it, I'm slightly compassionate for him because you can see his frustration. It's like, look, this happened. I'm sorry. I feel terrible that this happened. I'm trying to do something to make this right.
And the police aren't letting him.
And the police are like, no, you know what? Hey, we got you on this crack charge. You're done. We're going to get him. And we want to charge you with something. And that doesn't bring justice to Taylor. It's not something for the family. It's frustrating as shit.
It's like Taylor's gotten lost in all of this.
Yeah, they're more concerned with, well, we're going to get you on something. We can't get you on this. We're going to get you on something. And it's almost like they've taken the human aspect out of Taylor, and it's like she doesn't exist. Like she's what helped kick all this off, and that's what I find very upsetting in this.
Yeah, I do too.
You know what I mean? Come on, man.
I'm with you because I feel that they've used Taylor's death to try to make themselves look good. St. Pete and PCSO. Look at this big drug deal. We took down this big drug thing because this little girl died, and that's the way they're going. And that's why I'm saying Bert's gonna skate. He's gonna fucking skate, and I know he hurt my daughter. I know that you've known him for 10 years, and I know your daddy knew Bert, and that's how y'all met, and that's fine. But man, if there's anything that I'm not asking you to lie, please, I'm not.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out. There's no way Taylor would have looked like that. I know she was sick, and I have the autopsy, and she was sick because she did use IV drug use, and I know that. And we had her in rehab over and over and over. She just wouldn't listen to us. And I told her all the time, somebody's going to call me, or my work is going to come pick you up, and they're going to tell me that my daughter's found dead in a ditch. And Taylor, you knew Taylor a little bit. She would say, not me, Mom. It's not going to happen to me, Mom. I promise it's not going to, because she was fearless. She was an asshole, and she was fearless, and she didn't back down from people. And I think that's what got her killed. And I don't know if she smarted off to Bert, or Smiley came in the picture, and I don't know. I don't know, but I'm just asking you to rack your brain and try to think of anything that will help me bring some kind of justice. I don't want you. I don't want Archer. I need Butler. Butler killed my baby. It might not have happened right at his house, but it happened because of him. Right. And I need anybody to remember anything, because I'm never gonna get her back, and I gotta look at her babies.
That's right. I agree.
I gotta look at her babies and then she's gone. And she was a good girl. She was a good girl.
Yeah, she was. She was. I agree. I agree 100%. I'm talking about. I agree. I agree 100%. And you know what I mean. Like, the same thing Bert sister did to her child, and they got away with it. They they got the money to do it. You know what I mean. It's nothing. It was time, you know what I mean, that regular could have definitely, got with me and, you know what I mean, had me, go up there and, with the microphone and get Bert in the zone and find out exactly. But, you know what I mean, they were too busy, you know what I mean? I'm talking about they were too busy trying to, slander me. But I mean, the whole city know exactly, you know what I mean? But I got too many people that know me from childhood, from middle school to high school. They know I wouldn't have hurt no female, period. They already know that, you know what I mean? That little drug sting bust they're trying to, you know what I mean? That's all bull. You know what I mean? They can go with that story and they can convict me and take me in. I'm already have mine has made up. I already knew they were going to do that anyway. You know what I mean? It's nothing.
So just to recap real quick, at this point, a year later, Butler, Baker, and Archer have been charged with failure to report a death. Now, Archer pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 months in jail and $850 in court costs. Baker pled no contest and was sentenced to 364 days in jail with 343 days credit for time served plus $450 in court cost. Now, no contest, if our listeners don't know, means that the defendant in a criminal prosecution accepts the conviction or does not plead or admit guilt. Butler pled guilty and was sentenced to 36 days in jail with 1 day credit for time served and $450 in court costs.
And Taylor's father, Bill McAllister, told the Tampa Bay Times, "We're disgusted. We're going to court for a misdemeanor because that's all failure to report a death is. It's mind-blowing how easy it is for someone to get away with murder. To charge someone with a murder, I've got to have evidence that a person committed the murder," Chief Assistant State Attorney Bruce Bartlett said. "There's a lot of suspicion, a lot of finger-pointing. I've got to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury down the road."
Okay, so this is where we can have a discussion about, you kind of have to play devil's advocate here, because if they don't have enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, then they are smart. The prosecutor's office is smart for not taking this to trial, because if they were to charge Butler with murder and take him to trial with flimsy evidence, and he were to get acquitted, obviously then he's acquitted, there's no double jeopardy, he walks free for the rest of his life. So, in my opinion, I don't blame the state attorney for not bringing charges. If I were to point fingers, it would be at the St. Pete police for ignoring the evidence and waiting a year to get a search warrant and focusing on Baker and Archer instead of Butler, and giving everybody the runaround and not taking it seriously. It's just...
Yeah, they didn't do their due diligence.
They didn't. They really didn't.
I mean, you have a guy that was involved in it, Baker. He's saying, hey, I could have went and talked to him and I could have gotten you some information. It's like they didn't take the avenues necessary to basically proceed further with this. So
they couldn't get evidence.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, if you look at the evidence they had against Casey Anthony. You look at the evidence they had against OJ, and they still couldn't get a conviction. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think even if they would have just pushed a little further and charged him with something.
Well, they charged him with failure to report a body.
I get that, but I'm saying if they would have charged him with it, they could have done a little harm to this man they could have done more harm to him if he had to go up on murder charges. And maybe you wouldn't have put him in prison, but yet you could have basically paid him back a little bit, maybe some family justice or something. I don't know if that's the right way, or maybe I'm all wrong in my thinking. But siding with the family, I could see their frustration. Like, we wanted this to happen, regardless of what ultimately happens. At least there would have been some sort of justice. Maybe if they would have come through and said, "Hey, we're going to charge him with murder," Now we have to dig deep. Let's do everything we can. If the charges are on the table, we're going to have to provide a case to put him in prison. Now we're going to have to dig a little deeper and see what we can find, in which case it may have promoted a little better investigation. Maybe they could have gone through some different avenues. It would have forced the police department to push into some of these things, and maybe they do get Baker to go talk to Butler or whatever, new people. So if the charges come up, that might have forced them in a different direction, where in that aspect I could see where the family's frustration is. But again, I do agree with you on the aspect of you got to have a case, but maybe, obviously there's a big maybe, if they would have charged him, it could have forced the investigation. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah.
You understand?
I don't know. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't have an opinion either way whether that would have worked or not.
Yeah.
So
I can definitely see Bill and Leslie's frustration, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So that's where we're going to wrap it up for part 2. Please join us tomorrow for our 3rd episode in the Taylor McAllister series. We have a very candid interview with Bill and Leslie McAllister, Taylor's parents, which I think is going to be pretty eye-opening. Like I mentioned earlier, they know more about the case than anyone, I believe.
Yeah, like we said earlier, and they talk about this case from their perspective.
Yes, and it's really eye-opening to hear it from their perspective.
And not just the case, but Taylor.
Yes.
And that's even more important, as you get a feel for Taylor, because regardless of who her friends were, who she hung out with,
what was going on,
in her life.
She was a human.
She was a daughter.
She was a mother.
She was a wife, a sister. She was a great person deep down, and this is a very sad case. This is a very sad scenario. It didn't have to happen this way.
All right, everyone. That's it for tonight. Again, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast. And
check out our Etsy store for some awesome Paradise After Dark gear.
Please make sure to follow us on social media at Paradise Dark 239 on Twitter and at Paradise After Dark podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can also email us at paradiseafterdarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, please do that. Lauren is great about responding. And you can also check us out at our website, paradiseafterdark.com, for our latest episodes, links to the social medias, our Etsy store, and Patreon.
And please make sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening on. Rate and review. This really helps us get our show out there, branch out, and reach a wider audience.
Yeah, if you think we're 5 stars, please let us know about that. And thanks for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark, dark.
There is a house in New Orleans. They count the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one. I'm a Thank you.